Our first story, the Electoral Commission says no more than 700 people will be allowed at one polling station on election day, and in places where votes exceed this number, voters will be categorized into groups. Deputy Chairperson of the Commission, Dr. Bosman Asari, explains this is part of the Commission's measures aimed to reduce queuing and putting people at risk of COVID-19. He was speaking at the Star Ghana Election 2020 Grant Partners Learning event. More in this report by Nicholas Yamoa.
In less than 75 days, Ghana would be going to the polls to elect a new president. The first time Ghana will be voting in a pandemic. There is bound to be long queues, a phenomenon the Electoral Commission says it wants to avoid. Dr. Bosman Asare is Deputy Chairperson of the Commission.
Ahead of the 2020 elections, the Commission is not relenting. We are still strengthening and ensuring that everything is done properly. In 2016, the threshold for each polling station was a maximum of 850. In other words, no polling station exceeded 850 in 2016. But because of the pandemic in 2020, this is what the Commission is doing. The Commission is saying that the maximum that will be allowed at each polling station will be 700. In other words, this registration we undertook. Any registration center that has more than 700 people, we are going to split them into A and B.
For students and security personnel who registered at posts different from their original voting centers, transfer will be done next month.
Transfers will be allowed for only students and for those who are serving in the security agencies. Because during the registration, some security personnel from Accra were policing the registration in other parts of the country. The transfer will be allowed for the all other security agencies similarly situated. And apart from that, some of the students, we also noticed that they registered when they were in their schools. So transfers are limited. And if transfer, the committee is looking at the transfer taking place. Transfers normally go with trust. They will take place from October 20th to October 25th, tentatively.
A couple of months ago, the Electoral Commission of Ghana defied contrary views to compile a new voters register, which is currently being exhibited. Some chaotic scenes, including gunshots, were recorded during the registration exercise. Executive Secretary of the Peace Council, George Amo, says so far 16 electoral violence hotspots have been identified.
We are linking up closely with the Center for CDD, Center for Democratic Governance and Development, the CDD. And what we are doing is to go to 16 hotspots, identified 16 hotspots, where we are setting up what we have termed peace mediation committees. These committees are going to be a kind of an early warning and response mechanism in these areas so that they can relay information timeously for effective responses to be given.
Meanwhile, the police service says it is battle ready for violence, both physically and online. DCOP Dr. Saibu Gariba is on the Ghana Police Service National Election Task Force.
The cybercrime unit of the Ghana Police Service, in conjunction with our sister security agencies, are working to actually ensure that we have the space, the capability to manage online cyber crimes. That one is being done. And aside that, we have taken all issues into context, whether it is cyber crime, whether it is direct or physical. I can assure you that the strategy for this election is covering all that issues, and we'll be able to manage that.
Nicholas Eko Yamo's report for JoyNews.
Now, the Peace Council says it has identified some hotspots, among which is informing the EC's decision to reduce crowds at polling centers. Mr. George Amo is the Executive Secretary of the Peace Council and joins us with more details. Mr. Amo, thanks for joining us. Tell us more about these hotspots. What criteria was used to identify them, for instance?
Yes, Daniel, thank you, and good morning to our cherished listeners. What we do is to evaluate constituency by constituency to see what is it that makes a particular constituency prone or more prone to electoral violence. So indicators such as the incidence of violence, intemperate language used by politicians or political actors within a particular constituency, the history of a particular constituency relating to violence, So we put together and rate them, and we have noted close to 200 hotspots across the country, but for lack of resources, together with the CDD, we've selected 16 that we, in our opinion, can manage within the resource constraint that we have. So a place like Sankore, which is noted for political violence ahead of elections and even after elections, is one of them. We've looked at a place like Sawas, and areas across the country.
Right. Mr. Amo, so what's the recommendation to the security agencies now that we have 200 hotspots?
No, we are working closely with the police on some of these matters. We are recommending that that is why we have set up these peace mediation centers. One, to bring up the early signs so quickly for the needed responses to be given. We are recommending to the police to be swift with investigations. I know that would engender confidence, which is now being challenged, especially by opposition political parties. So we recommend that we don't keep quiet. We speak up. There are institutions around who are ready to support us when we see the signs of violence or threats of violence there. So we also recommend to all citizens of this country, let us not wait until a particular issue is turning to a violent a scale that we cannot manage.
Right.
And we also recommend to you, the media, that let us be very sensitive in the way we report issues relating to violence.
Right. Now, you mentioned that because of resource constraints, you can only focus on 16 of them. Should we not be worried?
Not at all. We are closely monitoring. We have regional offices across the country. We work closely with the National Commission for Civic Education. Together with OneNet, we have trained over 60 monitors across the country who are picking information and relaying the information to us almost every hour. As we speak, we are here at the Best Western Hotel. We are inaugurating a national election response group, which is going to be a platform to give timeous responses, to issues that will come up from our monitors. So aside of the 16 areas that we are focusing due to the peculiar environment, we are also spreading our wings across the country to ensure we have total peace before, during, and after December election. So
if I may ask, Mr. Amo, what would happen in these 16 hotspots that will not happen in the other more than 100?
Yes, your first question, you asked me why we are going to such places. So the indicators shows that these are highly prone areas that we have to give these areas, more attention than other places. So that is what has informed us, and we think that it is good that we position ourselves as part of our strategy to ensure these areas do not go back to where they used to be, especially during election years. So that is why we are giving these areas particular attention.
Right.
Otherwise, they are not different from the other places.
Right. So can you name some of these areas for us? Earlier you mentioned Sankore. Which other hotspots have you identified?
Yes, Sankore, I mentioned Banda is one. In recent times it came up strongly. But this place, I don't have the list before me, but Doma Hinkro is also one. Quite a number of places.
Do you have the Ewutu Senya where
yes,
we had the shooting?
We have, yes.
Is it in the 16 or
I would have to
200?
check it, but we have. I think in Central Region, that is the place that we have spotted.
Is it in the 16 or the 200?
The 16.
The 16.
Yes, I'm sure about that, yeah.
Right. Some of these issues may seem a bit unresolved. I don't know what your impression is. For instance, you mentioned Banda. Some of the issues, if you speak to the political actors, the issues are still pertaining. Eutu Senya as well. What's the strategy?
Yes, that's why we are setting up the committee. The committee is made up of eminent persons that we have identified together with stakeholders in these constituencies to help us, address the issues, not only in terms of, dealing with the criminal part of it or reporting, complaints here and there, but also to build relationships, restore where they've been broken ahead of the elections. So the PMCs or the peace mediation committees that we are setting up in these areas are going to deal with issues that come to their attention and also try to mend a relationship that hitherto probably have been destroyed because of the voter registration or other issues that came up. So we are trying to do that, using both the soft, approaches that we can master and also mediation tools we are going to make available to this system.
Thank you very much, Mr. George Amo, for joining us this morning.
I'm grateful.